Last night, the President of the United States acted for his country, and that is his mandate. Today, I will act in Britain's interests with mine. Now, clearly, there will be an economic impact from the decisions that the US has taken, both here and globally. But I want to be crystal clear. We are prepared. Indeed, one of the great strengths of this nation is our ability to keep a cool head. I said that in my first speech as Prime Minister, and that is how I govern. That is how we have planned, and that is exactly what is required today. Nobody wins in a trade war. That is not in our national interest. We have a fair and balanced trade relationship with the US, negotiations on an economic prosperity deal, one that strengthens our existing trading relationship. They continue, and we will fight for the best deal for Britain.
President Trump is in the process of trying to fundamentally restructure the US economy, and that means that our economy here needs to change dramatically as well. And as I made clear to President Trump in our call last week, I will reject all attempts to weaken Canada, all attempts to wear us down, to break us down, so that America can own us. That will never, ever happen.
What happens when the world's biggest economy declares a trade war? Prices skyrocket, industries shake, and global markets react in shock. But this time, the backlash is fiercer than ever. When President Donald Trump announced his latest wave of tariffs, he promised to put America first and crack down on what he called unfair trade practices. But instead of bending to U.S. demands, major world economies have hit back hard. From China slapping heavy tariffs on American goods to the European Union targeting key industries, global trade is on the verge of an all-out war. So, who's winning this battle? And how will it impact your wallet, job, and the economy at large? Let's break it down. Breakdown of Trump's tariffs. On April 3, 2025, Trump introduced a 10% baseline tariff on all U.S. imports, with substantially higher rates targeting key trading partners such as China, Canada, Mexico, and the European Union, EU. Notably, Chinese exports now face an unprecedented 54% tariff. This move has raised the average U.S. import tax rate to 22%, a level unseen since the early 20th century. Trump has defended these tariffs as a response to unfair trade practices, framing them as a strategy to realign global trade in favor of U.S. economic interests. Global retaliation. Nations affected by the tariffs have swiftly introduced countermeasures. China retaliation. China imposed a 34% tariff on U.S. imports while levying additional taxes on coal, liquefied natural gas, crude oil, agricultural machinery, and vehicles. It also restricted exports of critical minerals and launched antitrust investigations into U.S. corporations. European Union retaliation. European Union, facing a 20% tariff, the EU is preparing a forceful response. French officials have suggested targeting American tech companies, while broader EU measures focus on steel manufacturing and meat processing. Canada retaliation. Canada. Despite initial exemptions, Canada has pledged to fight back with retaliatory tariffs on U.S. agricultural products, household appliances, and aluminum. Levies on aerospace and electric vehicles remain under consideration. Brazil retaliation. Brazil passed a reciprocity law allowing for countermeasures against tariffs on Brazilian exports and is considering a formal appeal to the World Trade Organization, the WTO. These retaliatory tariffs strategically target U.S. industries and states where Trump enjoys strong political support, affecting millions of jobs in sectors now vulnerable to foreign trade restrictions. Countries opting not to retaliate. Some nations have chosen not to impose countermeasures. Malaysia will rely on existing trade agreements rather than imposing counter tariffs. New Zealand is prioritizing low tariffs to avoid inflationary pressures. Norway is open to negotiations, but has not announced any retaliatory measures. Economic and political consequences. The escalating trade conflict is expected to have far-reaching consequences. Inflation. Higher import costs could lead to rising consumer prices for essentials like groceries and electronics. Global trade disruptions. Key industries, including semiconductors and pharmaceuticals, may experience supply chain strain due to increasing trade barriers. Recession risks. Prolonged trade conflicts could push the U.S. into a deep recession, potentially driving unemployment rates above 7%. Agricultural sector losses. U.S. farmers already struggling from previous trade disputes risk further export declines as competitors like Brazil fill the gap. Political repercussions. The retaliatory measures disproportionately impact rural economies and industries central to Trump's voter base, potentially undermining his economic agenda and fueling domestic political opposition. Generally, Trump's aggressive tariff policies have ignited global backlash, increasing economic uncertainty both domestically and internationally. While aimed at bolstering American manufacturing and correcting trade imbalances, the long-term consequences could include higher consumer costs, strained diplomatic relations, and potential economic contraction. As the tariff war escalates, one question remains: who will blink first? Stay tuned because this economic showdown is far from over. Alert symbol money.